I chose Minecraft because it's mindless. I can just, just kind of do stuff in it while I rattle off a bunch of points. Oh, thank you. So first and foremost, I've been doing a lot of straight gaming recently, without doing what I intended to do with this channel, which was make a politics channel, admittedly in the same vein as channels like Destiny or Vosh or Xander Hall. I want it to be another one of those. But I haven't felt like I've had much to personally engage with. I mean, right now it's a meme to do the Turf Manifesto that J.K. Rowling wrote, or to make fun of Ben Shapiro for that systemic racism video he did. I don't know if Destiny did the J.K. Rowling thing. I know at least Xander Hall and Vosh did it. They did it great. They pointed out everything that you could point out about it. I'm not interested in covering it. The Ben Shapiro did video. Destiny, Xander Hall, and Vosh did it. They did it great. They addressed everything wrong with it. There's no reason I should dip my toes in it. So what's something that I can do personally? That I can say, that I can do, that will contextualize what I want to be doing with this channel. I don't want to be doing just straight gaming. I want to be doing some praxis with it. Now, that isn't to say I don't at least sometimes just want to do some fun gaming streams, but when I started focusing on this, what I really wanted to focus on was politics and current events. And I had some inspiration earlier. Admittedly, I'm not great at talking live. I don't have much practice at it. My last just chatting stream is evidence enough to that. Did Minecraft just crash? Yes, it did. But I'm working on it. I have a little bit of prep. I spent 25 minutes doing some last-minute prep, some last-minute research, just to make sure all my claims are brushed up. But what I want to talk about right now is the police. Let me close Minecraft and open it up again, because it is a piece of shit that keeps crashing. Yes, I have my stream open in the background, so I get a nice little Hall of Mirrors effect here. Hi, Gaming Pledgers. How you doing? So, I am doing a political stream with Minecraft as a backdrop. Thank you for asking. So, what I'm doing today is I'm contextualizing my political beliefs. And I'm doing that through the view of talking about the police. And the reason that I wanted to do this is because of a tweet that I made. It even says in my panels down below that my Twitter is almost entirely focused on politics and current events. But a few days ago, I posted this tweet. Conservatives out here are crying defund the CBC because they sometimes post cringe. Meanwhile, the left gets defund the RCMP trending because, murdering innocent people and all. The RCMP and several local police departments in Canada have a history of police brutality. So, of course, like defund the police got trending in the US, we got defund the RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Canada's federal police force. And of course, I really wanted to show you this, but I cannot, because this person made their account private. But what they said, you'll have to take me at my word, is, that typical shit. Oh, I'd like to see what you do when you... I hope that you don't need the RCMP's help, but if you do, they should probably check your Twitter before they decide to help you. And of course, my response is, yeah, it is, after all, their job to discriminate who they help depending on who's nice to them. That's not all I could have said. Because, of course, it isn't their job to discriminate. It's their job to help people, so to speak. whenever they need help, because they are citizens, because they are living here, and if they need help, it's the police's job to help them, so to speak. I know at least in the US, it is not technically on the books that it is their job to help people. It is their job to eliminate crime. But if it's their job to help people, are they actually doing that? Because this person, obviously you can't view their tweet anymore, but this person said, "I hope you don't need the RCMP's help," which is a reflection of that very common argument, "I hope you never need the police's help." But isn't it to protect and serve? Yeah, but that's a slogan. It's not really what's on the books. It's much more about upholding the law than it is protecting and serving. And what that makes it end up being is a gang. A state-sponsored gang that serves them and doesn't serve the people. I mean, I can outline that in a bit, but what I really want to stress is when you hear, "I hope you never need the police's help," me too, because they probably won't help. I've needed the police's help several times, and you know what they did? Nothing. Most presciently, I'm gonna start this game. I'm gonna start a new world and just call it. I'm gonna allow cheats because I'm a cheater. Most presciently, my family had a history with stalking. We had a stalking problem, without wishing to give away too many details. And we went to the police many times. Nothing happened. They didn't want to do anything. It's too much work to do stuff. Too much work to help people with issues that are hard to prove. But it's not only that. Another time I heard a heated argument outside my building. It sounded like someone was about to get shot. So we called the police. Did anyone come out, survey the scene, see what was going on? No. About a year ago, there was a shooting just in my lobby, just downstairs from where I live. Police responded, sure, they showed up with some big guns, some rifles, just stood outside the scene, figured out what was going on, I guess. The assailants, of course, fled the scene and have never been caught. So, the police did respond to the situation, but what actually happened here? People were shot in my lobby. They got away. Were never caught. What exactly did the police do here? See the book at me at age 17, served 10 years on a GTA sentence while you have murders and rapists. Yes. See, the law that they're forced to uphold is a law which oppresses poor people, and that's the thing. I'm pretty sure, I can't exactly back up this claim right now because I didn't research this claim in particular, but I am pretty confident that the police will focus on richer areas. I live in a poor area, called the police because of an argument. Sorry, gaming pleasures, that... You know what, let me just turn that shit off. It's a really stupid thing. Yeah, after it expires... Oh, can I forgive? Is there a forgive command? Hold on a second, let me look into this. Let me try to forgive you. Oh, I don't want to get rid of this. Shit. Oh my god. This is ridiculous. I'm very sorry about the mute. Let me get back to this. Yeah, it's very excessive. I can't even lower the amount of time it mutes for. I'm liking Streamlabs chatbot less and less the more I use it. Anyway, so I live in a poor area. We had a shooting. Police came, didn't follow up. Nobody even... Let me make this clear. I say the assailants weren't caught. I don't actually know for sure, because nobody told anybody. Nobody followed up. I heard a blood-curdling argument nearby and was worried about it, called the police, nobody followed up. What it seems to me is that the poors just eat themselves. You know, don't worry about the poor, they're just going to eat themselves anyway. Worry about the people who actually give to this economy, right? Worry about the big people, the people that matter. The poors are just gonna shoot each other anyway. So, I guess my point is, what'll I do if I need the police's help? I don't know, guess I'll die. They're not gonna help anyway. It's a concern for rich people, certainly, if they need the police's help, because they're more likely to be helped by the police. But if you're poor, doesn't matter. We might as well not have a police force for poor people. We're not protected. I don't feel protected by the police. Everyone has to take matters into their own hands all the time anyway. You know what the police do? As was mentioned before, they don't serve and protect. They uphold laws. Laws that are on the books. Whether they're just or not, that's what they're there to do. So with that, the police are obviously given a lot of power. A lot of power to assess situations and diffuse situations as they see fit. So what does that end up meaning? Well, obviously in the States, you know, there's a big protest about a whole bunch of police brutality going on. And of course, the police respond to claims of police brutality with more police brutality, obviously. Similar things happen internationally, though. I know at least in Montreal, Quebec, the protests got really bad. And of course, tear gas was used. Tear gas is against the Geneva Convention. Use of tear gas in a war setting is a war crime. If you can't use tear gas against combatants, why in hell would you be able to use it against civilians? But never mind that. What are a few things that happened in Canada? Well, let's look at this. Let's talk a little bit about systemic racism while we're at it, too. So when I talk about murdering innocent people and all, obviously that's a little bit of an exaggeration. The RCMP isn't quite as bad as the American police. I'll give them that. Canada's history with black people isn't quite as bad as the United States' history with black people. But, use of firearms is RCMP's most common recorded intervention tactic. This seems all too common. Why is it the most common response for police officers to use their firearms? This doesn't even say draw, use. They discharge their firearms. It seems to me like look, use of pressure points 12 times in 2019. Stun strikes 718 times. $2,000. 2,074 times for stuns and strikes. Listen, I understand. If you're a person whose job puts you in the line of confrontation constantly, you might be a little jumpy. But you have a responsibility. So when something like this happens, this responsibility becomes a lot more relevant. A police officer was called to this woman's home for a wellness check, and she was shot dead. Edmonton police force said the officer shot Moore to defend himself because she had allegedly had a knife and was making threats. Surely, there could have been a better way to respond to this that didn't end up taking this woman's life. I don't think people really realize that taking someone's life, killing them, taking away their ability to continue existing is kind of a big deal. And you can't be taking it lightly. Clearly this woman wasn't well. Maybe she had a knife. Maybe she was making threats. Maybe she even charged at him. Maybe she wasn't in a good place. Maybe she wasn't even lucid. We don't actually know. There were only 2 people there. Only 1 witness. But now, because of that, she is dead. I think it's at least time to call into question how much training the police get. Because I outlined that the police don't actually help. When do they help? They haven't helped me. When they're called into a simple domestic problem, this woman ends up dead, shot by the police. When are they actually helping? Can you point me to all of the great times when the police showed up and everyone was well and good, especially in poor areas? And then people are surprised when a movement comes up to defund the police, to defund the RCMP, because what have they actually done? This is a gang. And of course, in the wake of it, I mean, that's not even to mention, I had this other one, oh yes, Canada urged to open its eyes to systemic racism in the wake of police violence. This is also after a black woman was pushed off her balcony by a Toronto police officer. And of course, Premier Doug Ford's statement that thank God we're in a different country than the United States. We don't have the systemic deep roots they've had for years. This is half true. We don't have a history as bad as the States with black people. But that's why you don't hear as much about systemic racism against black people in Canada. It's still there. It is still there. There is income disparity along racial lines in Canada, especially in this day and age when rhetoric bleeds in from the United States all the time. Their problems become our problems. If they have a problem with systemic racism, that is going to bleed in here too. Their roots cause them to judge black people constantly. As in that study done where employers were less likely to choose resumes with from equally qualified applicants if they had black-sounding names. And so black people become more impoverished. Impoverished people are more prone to crime. And thus, because of systemic racism in the States, you have an incredibly disproportionate amount of black people in the prison system. This feeds into a very simple right-wing narrative that black people just commit more crime. It has nothing to do with systemic racism. They just commit more crime without even bothering to ask the question, why do they commit more crime? Or why are they caught committing more crime? That's another question entirely. But of course they're more impoverished, and impoverished people are more likely to commit crime. So why are they more impoverished? They tactfully avoid the question of, Either you think that they are genetically predisposed to crime and poverty, or there's another underlying reason that is out of their control, that they tend to commit more crime. We're not asking that question. Let's not even bother. But of course, since the United States has that problem, that exact same rhetoric of blacks commit more crime tends to bleed into here. And so, we also have a wealth disparity based on race. But it's also really bad for indigenous people. We just talked about, it's even in this article, but we just talked about an indigenous woman being shot dead during a wellness check. Where is that article I had open? Oh, wait. Regarding anger, number of and the head of yes. Footage emerged showing Royal Canadian Mounted Police officers in Alberta forcing a First Nations chief to the ground and punching him in the head. On Friday evening, an Indigenous man was shot dead by the RCMP in New Brunswick. You hear a lot about Indigenous people in Canada, more so than in America. So if you want to talk about systemic racism, we have it bad. We have it real bad. If you want the prime example, my favorite example of systemic racism in Canada, that's probably the best one. These were schools, boarding schools, that were in operation in Canada that were designed specifically for Aboriginal children. The school system was created for the purpose of removing Indigenous children from the influence of their own culture and assimilating them into the dominant Canadian culture to kill the Indian in the child. Over the course of the system, more than 100 years of existence, about 30% of Indigenous children, around 150,000, were placed in residential schools nationally. The number of school-related deaths remains unknown due to an incomplete historical record, though estimates range from 3,200 to upwards of 6,000. Anyone wants to tell you that Canada does not have a problem with systemic racism, you know that they're either mistaken or lying. We do. We got it bad. We don't have the same history with black people as America does. History was phased out in Canada, well, before the country of Canada even unified, but it was phased out in Canada long before it was in the United States. We never had Jim Crow. We did have racism against have institutional racism against black people in Canada, but it was in the earlier 1900s. But it was still there. Yes, there is systemic racism. So, I've been meandering a lot. But I guess this is all to say that do we really need the police? What good have they done? Or is it time to figure out an alternative? A lot of people are saying you need to defund or reduce funding, demilitarize. Okay, yeah, sorry. Defund, demilitarize, and reduce the power of the police. Reform the police. Sure. Fine. I forgot where I'm going. I guess this game wasn't as mindless as I thought. Anyway, yeah, defund, demilitarize, but what'll that end up doing? I guess this is to say, if I wanted to contextualize my political philosophy, it's tough to for me right now. I have a lot of sympathies with anarchism, but I suppose what I'm comfortable right now identifying as is a democratic socialist, because obviously the system isn't working. So I guess I had that bout of inspiration, because I heard that argument all the time. I hope you never need the police. Me too. Because whether or not the police exist, whether or not they have funding, it doesn't matter to me. It'll make no difference. No one's gonna be there. That's it.